Olivia, lots of things there from Rishi Sunak. I can't help but wonder whether or not he's setting himself up for failure here. Things like stopping the small boats, for example. Does that mean if one boat comes across this time next year, then he's failed?
Well, yes, it's an interesting question. I think it could be said that Rishi Sunak actually has been quite careful about what he's said there, because he's made these 5 promises, but only one, the first one, which is halve inflation, has any kind of timescale on it. Halve inflation by the end of the year, he says, something which is actually predicted to happen anyway. On the small boats thing, you'll notice the wording was introduce new laws to stop small boats. So he can introduce the laws. Will it actually stop the small boats? Is there anything actually holding him to account any further than that? He talked about earning people's trust, and to me the message was very much he wanted to talk about he will only promise what he can deliver, and actually the promises he made were relatively limited in their scope. That said, after his 5 promises, he talked about, a plan to rebuild Britain beyond just fixing things, beyond just managing the decline that we seem to be slipping our way into. And on that, he touched on some very important things which previous Prime Ministers have neglected, from supporting the family to cutting crime. But again, there was very little on the specifics of it, and he was pretty careful to dodge the journalist questions on those
exactly. It's something that annoyed me, and I think will have annoyed a lot of our viewers and listeners who were glued to it. And you've got the big things there. Look, we can see it at the bottom of our screen. Halve inflation, grow the economy, cut debt, slash NHS waiting list, stop the boats. OK, well, let's talk about the NHS then. What's he actually going to do?
Well, exactly. And I asked him about childcare. We know that Liz Truss had a bunch of reforms planned that would make childcare completely affordable for the average family. We know that childcare in this country is one of the most expensive in the whole of Europe. That would be a plan to show that he is supporting the family. But when I asked him about that, he just said he loved his family. He's talking about family. He's making the right noises, essentially, and wouldn't say anything about the specifics. And that was a theme, it has to be said, which carried through the speech. When asked what he would do about the NHS, he talks about the money that he's put into it. We know that the government is putting money into the NHS over and over again. But he avoided the question of structural reform. He talked about free at the point of use, rolled out the old mantras. But as you say, a lot of the what, very little of the how.